Hello, and welcome. Today's topic is one of the most significant struggles in human history, the fight for human rights and the quest for justice on a global scale. Human rights are the fundamental rights every person is born with, yet throughout history and even today, these rights have been at risk. In this video, we'll explore the foundations of human rights, the global search for justice, the obstacles that arise, and what we can do moving forward to ensure these rights are upheld for everyone. The importance of human rights struggles. The fight for human rights is one of the most crucial and ongoing battles in human history. These rights are the bedrock of justice, equality, and dignity for every person, yet they have been violated repeatedly throughout history, and unfortunately, this continues today. In this video, we'll dive deep into the significance of these struggles, understanding why they persist, and exploring what can be done to secure these rights for all. We will also take a look at how movements, institutions, and individuals have shaped the fight for human rights on a global scale. In our modern world, the pursuit of justice isn't confined to any one nation or group. Human rights are universal; they apply to every person everywhere. Yet, the global quest to ensure these rights faces countless obstacles, from authoritarian regimes to social and economic inequalities. This video will explore both the challenges and the solutions, providing a roadmap for how we can all take part in this fight. After all, securing human rights is not just a political or legal challenge, it is a moral imperative. The historical development of human rights. The concept of human rights has evolved over centuries. Early legal documents, such as the Magna Carta of 1215, which sought to limit the power of monarchs, laid the foundation for what we now consider human rights. Centuries later, the Enlightenment era brought forth revolutionary ideas about individual freedom and equality, which influenced the American Declaration of Independence and the French Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. These early steps established the groundwork for modern human rights movements by defining certain inalienable rights that belong to all individuals. However, it was the catastrophic events of the 20th century, particularly the atrocities of World War II, that truly cemented the importance of a global framework for human rights. In 1948, the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a groundbreaking document that asserts the rights of all people, regardless of nationality, race, or status. Since then, human rights movements have gained momentum, influencing international law, policy, and activism around the world. Understanding this historical trajectory is key to comprehending the importance of current struggles for justice and equality. Defining and understanding human rights. At its core, human rights refer to the basic rights and freedoms that belong to every person in the world from birth. These rights are essential to a dignified life and include fundamental protections such as the right to life, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and freedom from torture and slavery. While these concepts seem straightforward, their application and enforcement have been far from universal, leading to widespread violations across different countries and contexts. Human rights are non-discriminatory and apply to everyone, regardless of their race, gender, age, or economic background. However, many societies still face profound challenges in upholding these rights, especially for marginalized or vulnerable groups. In this section, we'll explore the complexities of human rights laws and discuss how these rights are codified and protected at both national and international levels, while also delving into the obstacles that prevent their enforcement. Human rights violations on a global scale. Despite international agreements, human rights violations are still rampant around the world. In countries ravaged by war, poverty, and authoritarian regimes, basic human rights are routinely disregarded. Civilian populations in war zones such as Syria, Yemen, and Afghanistan suffer from daily violence, displacement, and deprivation. In these regions, the right to life, liberty, and security, fundamental human rights, are systematically denied, highlighting the urgent need for global intervention and awareness. Moreover, discrimination, gender inequality, and economic exploitation persist even in countries with strong human rights laws. Minorities, women, and the poor continue to be disproportionately affected by rights violations, which leads to an ever-widening gap in justice and equality. The The scale and frequency of these violations reveal the need for stronger enforcement mechanisms and a global commitment to defending human dignity. The role of international law. International law plays a vital role in the protection and promotion of human rights. Organizations like the United Nations, International Criminal Court, and the European Court of Human Rights provide frameworks to hold governments accountable for human rights violations. International treaties such as the Geneva Conventions and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights aim to safeguard people in war zones and protect civil liberties worldwide. Yet, despite these laws, enforcement remains a major challenge, particularly in countries that resist or reject international oversight. However, international law remains a powerful tool for justice, giving victims a platform to voice their grievances and seek redress. Even when governments resist, global pressure and international scrutiny can lead to meaningful changes. Recent cases of genocide trials, war crime investigations, and sanctions against oppressive regimes illustrate how international law can still bring accountability to perpetrators, even if progress is slow. The power of civil society and activism. Beyond international institutions, civil society and grassroots activism are critical to advancing human rights. Organizations such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and Doctors Without Borders work on the ground to document abuses, provide relief, and advocate for change. These groups not only expose violations but also pressure governments and international bodies to act. Their tireless efforts have brought attention to injustices that might otherwise be ignored, ensuring that human rights remain at the forefront of global conversations. Individual activists also play a key role in advancing the fight for human rights. Figures like Nelson Mandela, Malala Yousafzai, and Aung San Suu Kyi have become symbols of resistance and change in the face of oppression. Their stories inspire millions, proving that even in the most difficult circumstances, people can fight for justice and equality. These activists remind us that the global struggle for human rights is a shared responsibility and that individual action can lead to transformative outcomes. The role of social media in the human rights struggle. In the digital age, social media has emerged as a crucial platform for human rights advocacy. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram allow real-time documentation of human rights violations, often bypassing traditional media censorship. Movements such as the Arab Spring, #Black Lives Matter, and #MeToo were born on social media, using hashtags to spread awareness and mobilize support for marginalized groups. These digital platforms provide a voice for those who would otherwise be silenced. However, social media is a double-edged sword. While it has democratized access to information and activism, it also poses challenges such as misinformation, cyberbullying, and government surveillance. Despite these risks, social media remains a vital tool for human rights defenders, amplifying their efforts and fostering global solidarity. Women's rights and the fight for equality. The fight for women's rights is one of the most significant struggles within the broader human rights movement. Throughout history, women have been denied basic rights, facing systemic discrimination in education, employment, politics, and even personal freedoms. However, movements like women's suffrage, the feminist movement, and global campaigns for gender equality have made significant strides in securing rights for women across the world. Yet, challenges remain. Women continue to face issues such as gender-based violence, pay inequality, and limited access to healthcare and education in many parts of the world. Advocating for women's rights is not just about ensuring legal equality, but also dismantling deep-rooted cultural and societal norms that perpetuate discrimination. This ongoing fight is essential to achieving full human rights for all individuals, regardless of gender. Migrant rights and the global search for justice. Migration, whether driven by conflict, persecution, or economic hardship, is a global human rights issue. Refugees and migrants are among the most vulnerable populations in the world, often denied basic rights such as shelter, healthcare, and the right to asylum. Humanitarian crises in places like Syria, Venezuela, and Myanmar have highlighted the plight of millions forced to flee their homes in search of safety. However, many countries' responses have been marked by harsh border policies, xenophobia, and the violation of migrants' rights. Ensuring the protection of migrant rights is a key part of the broader human rights struggle. International bodies like the United Nations Refugee Agency advocate for the rights of displaced persons, but global cooperation is essential. Addressing the root causes of forced migration, such as war and poverty, and promoting safe, legal pathways for migration are critical steps toward justice for these vulnerable communities. Standing together for human rights. The global struggle for human rights is far from over, and it requires collective action from individuals, governments, and international bodies. Whether it's through legal reform, grassroots activism, or simply raising awareness, every effort counts in advancing the cause of justice. The fight for human rights is not limited to a particular region or group. It is a universal challenge that affects all of us. As we reflect on the importance of human rights, it's crucial to remember that these struggles require constant vigilance. Progress can be undone, and rights can be stripped away if we are not careful. By standing together and advocating for the protection of human dignity, we can continue the pursuit of global justice for all. Thank you for watching, and let's keep this conversation going.